Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA, is demanding that from the 1st of January, the beginning of next year, all workers at Comair be paid their full salaries. Most have only been taking home around 70% of their pay, while benefits have been drastically reduced. Comair was forced to ground its flights in July due to financial difficulties. It was then placed in business rescue. The NUMSA spokesperson is Phakamile Hlubi-Majola. Phakamile, good afternoon to you. Why are you demanding that workers be paid their full salaries?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon to your viewers, and thank you for having me on the show. We want our members to be paid their salaries in full because the collective agreement, which currently is the reason why workers at Comair have had a 30% cut in their salary, that collective agreement expires at the end of this month in December. We are expecting that from the 1st of January, all workers at Comair will earn their salary in full, particularly given that the airline is now fully operational. It is no longer, it is currently flying. It's fully operational. And we believe also it's time for the business rescue practitioners to go in light of the fact that the airline is now fully operational. So we are basically saying that it's business as usual at Comair. And in light of that, there's absolutely no reason for them to continue with this labor regime where workers are only earning 70% of their salary.
You say it's business as usual, and I presume your members would be able to tell us this. Are the flights fully booked? I mean, are they operating as full as they are allowed to under the restrictions, or are they, running only at a third of the number of passengers?
Well, I don't know the details in terms of how much capacity they're allowed, but obviously I presume they would be operating in terms of whatever restrictions are in play. But the fact of the matter is that business rescue is not a process that lasts indefinitely. These business rescue practitioners were appointed in May of 2020. And as you know, Stephen, in terms of the Companies Act, business rescue is not intended to go on for more than 3 months. So it is our view, given that the airline is fully operating now, that the time for the business rescue practitioners has really come to an end. And at the same time, because of the end of this collective agreement, we expect the conditions that workers had previously to be reinstated.
I mean, I get all of that. I'm just trying to find out what's possible for the airline to pay. Do you believe they would be able to pay full salaries is really the question.
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear you
properly. Do you believe the airline would be able to afford to pay full salaries?
Well, that is something that we would have to negotiate. What we don't want is the current situation where it does seem as if Comair is determined to extend this regime. And as far as we're concerned, they don't have the right to do so without following a particular process. We would have to have negotiations where they would have to present that argument and display to us why they would not be able to pay these salaries in full. Under the current collective agreement, it expires in December. So our expectation is that from 1 January 2022, workers are going to earn 100% salaries. And this should apply across all stations. Why this is particularly an issue for us is because in July of this year, Comair has already sort of indicated that it wants to cut conditions and also reduce the status of workers in the PEG stations, being Port Elizabeth, George, as well as East London stations. And we absolutely reject that. We believe that we cannot simply agree to such an arrangement, certainly not without following a proper process where we would have to be taken into confidence, where financials would have to be shown, where proper justifications must be made for a continuation of any reduction in salaries or conditions where workers are concerned.
Just that the context of this is important. They went into business rescue at the beginning of May, right? And that's when, at the beginning of May last year, so during the hard lockdown last year when Comair couldn't actually fly. Were your workers getting 70% then already? Your members, rather?
It started in September of 2020, this regime of 70%. But prior to that, they weren't earning anything. Members were on zero.
Yeah.
And had to depend on the TERS system. So I think, I mean, our members have gone through a lot in order to keep this airline going. And we believe very strongly that it's asking a lot to demand that they continue with this, certainly without consultation or justification. Given that the petrol price is completely skyrocketed, the standard of living, day-to-day expenses are extremely high. Nobody, I'm sure yourself included, if your boss was suddenly to say to you, you must take a 30% cut, nobody is prepared for such a decision when companies take such decisions. It has a huge impact, and it's had a very, very negative impact on workers at Comair. Our members are saying they cannot go on any further. They've suffered enough, and we absolutely agree, and we demand that as of the 1st of January, all conditions must be reinstated. Workers must earn 100% salary going forward.
Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, I really appreciate the time. Thanks very much indeed.